Hey, good evening, guys. That's another look at the sun rays. Very beautiful, with clouds off to the west of here. You're seeing the tops of cumulonimbus about 100 to 150 miles out to the west there. So, giving us a very beautiful sunset. So, what's causing all those cumulus and cumulonimbus? Well, we can see it on the potential temperature map, and there it is, a front on its way southward, and a very distinct change between Texas and the northern plains. So north of there, you can see the north winds coming in, and then south of there, that's the old air mass, and that's the tropical air flowing up from the Gulf area. And just as a note, this is going to be kind of an abbreviated weathercast because I'm still pretty far behind with a lot of tasks. I had to finish the IFR column last night, and that kind of set me back. So I'm going to have to work on that stuff tonight here. So anyway, yeah, the tail end of the front, you can see that coming into the West Texas area right there. There's northeast winds right to the north of that. And then you can see El Paso and Las Cruces, winds are still out of the west in that area. And also Albuquerque, northwest winds. So this is a very shallow air mass. And it's being checked by the mountain ranges, the Sangre de Cristos, and I don't know if that's the same mountain range that goes further south, but that's blocking that air mass, keeping it from getting into the Roswell and Alamogordo area. There's the big picture looking at the thickness and the isobars. So pretty cut and dry now that it's finally emerged from the Rockies. We can see the tail end of that front right there coming out of West Texas. And looks like it has a pretty good push through Arizona. So northern Arizona, the Four Corners, under the cold air mass, but to the south, a little less definite, probably tropical air down in that area. And then out in the Midwest, we see what looks like a warm front from a low-pressure center there near Chanute, Kansas, and that extends out towards Quincy, Illinois, out towards Champaign, and into the Toledo and Cleveland area. And north of that, there's that cold air mass, and this is more of Canadian origin. In this section right here, this area is more of Pacific origin right there. All right, let's go to the maps, and yeah, we're already in the maps, but there's the radar. We can see that front coming in through the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Pretty good thunderstorms all the way back to Brownwood, and looks like around to San Angelo. And you can see the fine line coming through the Dallas area right there. Something is preventing widespread convection. So we'll take a look at the soundings for sure, because otherwise, you know, with the heating temperatures up near 90, we should see that filled in, but that hasn't been the case. So let me go to the soundings, and we'll try to see what is happening there. So we'll grab the evening soundings. And then for Fort Worth, okay, the soundings this evening will be looking like this right there. So that's 0Z. And you can see the winds right there. The lowest two plots showing northwest to north winds. So if we look at the base of that barb right there, that puts the air mass transition right about there. So that's going to be about 920 millibars. And that intersects almost perfectly with this little inversion right there. And above that, this is all that tropical air. And then it looks like we have a bit of a subsidence inversion above that. Lots of dry air above 14,000 feet there. So kind of a complex sounding. So just to summarize, fresh polar air coming in. Then above that looks like kind of like a double inversion. Almost looks like 3 different air masses in there. However, the wind profile through those layers, very similar there. So we don't know what's causing that for sure. We would have to go back and look at this morning's sounding and maybe animate it and kind of see the changes taking place. And cross sections will help you out quite a bit with that. Okay, let's see if I have any satellite. No, I didn't set up the satellite loops. Let me do that. Okay, we'll load up about 10 frames of satellite imagery. And things have cleared out pretty good with the departure of Nate. I didn't track where it was yesterday, but I'm thinking with that fast flow right there, it's probably all the way up near Maine. So things have quieted down quite a bit in the central U.S. and just that dry front coming through. And I did want to check why we're not getting that convection. And it's pretty obvious the mixing ratios in the lowest 100 millibars are pretty low. So this is a mean mixing ratio line right there. Looking at about 12 grams per kilogram. So if we try to lift that with an 86-degree temperature, we've got a lot of capping in there. And we can't even really find a positive area. It's possible with those other sections further down the front, things are a little bit better down that way. Maybe a little bit of moisture has come together ahead of the front. Maybe the mixing ratios are more like that because the air mass is not really homogeneous. So if you try lifting from 68-degree temperatures, with a little bit of forcing, you might be able to clear this. And then, yeah, you do get a little bit of positive area in that sounding. And most of the positive area is above 11,000 feet. So that's going to really stretch out your cape. That's what we call, well, for one thing, elevated cape. But it also gives us a weak cape density. So as you ascend from one layer to the next, your cape rises very slowly, and it's mostly concentrated way up here. All right, let's head back to that infrared imagery. And let me see, make sure everything is going okay in chat. We've got Ron Chalfant mentioning the Santa Ana winds are in full force. 1,500 homes burned in Santa Rosa, 10 deaths, as well as many homes lost in the Anaheim area. Winds up to 50 miles an hour there. Okay, we've got Electrodog here and Burl H, Ryan Toomeys, Kevin McKinney, Mike R, mentioning that moderate smoke in the San Francisco area this evening. We have Thomas Copeland here and Carl Berghoff celebrating the Packers win there. Trish Ann Liu asking about snow. Don't know yet. Still a little bit early for that. Maybe in the higher elevations, definitely in the Rockies. Veojo is here, 70 degrees in Illinois. The Hilton Hotel in Napa Wine Country is burned, from Mike R. there. David Moore says the front came through the DFW Metroplex this evening. Much drier air. Dew points in the 70s today. Cool in central Wyoming today. Mike R. says 1,500 homes and structures destroyed so far. Link to read up on Cape. I would just go into Google and put in Cape. There are some good tutorials from some of the universities there on Cape. But just As a quick refresher, that's basically you take your parcel and find the lifted temperature, which is going to be a line kind of like that. And say we get a line that looks like that right there. Most of this is going to be positive area here. That's just the difference between the parcel lift and the environment. And you're looking at it in terms of geometrical area. So that's probably the best way to describe it. Okay, for our weather summary here, you can see on the west coast we do have troughing along the coast right there, and then high pressure inland. So that pressure gradient right there is what's helping to create the Santa Ana winds. So let's go to the mesoscale details. And there in the California deserts, you can see the easterly wind component here, right around Edwards Air Force Base and Barstow, out towards Daggett and 29 Palms. In fact, looking at 30 knots right there in this region north of the Salton Sea. So during the day today, it's looking like this. You can see, actually, as we start out, look how cold the temperatures are there in northern Arizona. Let me move this a little bit. There we go. And these little white outlines, those are freezing temperatures. So a lot of areas in the 20s and low 30s this evening or this morning. So that's a lot of dense air there, and the differential between that and the relatively warmer air along the coast helps give us our easterly component to the wind flow. So as the day continues, what we see is this. We get solar heating pickup, and you can see the temperatures coming up near 80 along the coast into the San Joaquin Valley there. Meanwhile, 40s and 50s in the high deserts. So a very strong wind blowing from east to west there. However, because of adiabatic warming, we don't see a whole lot of that cold air coming over the mountains there. So for tonight, things will cool down a little bit since the area is very dry. And then by morning, 60s around the LA area, mid-60s, but in the San Joaquin Valley, 50s, a little bit cooler there. And then in the central deserts there, the Yuma, Needles, Las Vegas area, lots of 40s and 50s. Look at that, 48 right there in Las Vegas. So very, very cold air mass in Nevada and Utah there. And you can see the northerly wind components there at Las Vegas and easterly at Phoenix. And then for tomorrow, what we're going to see is a map something like this. Wind starting to come around to the south in the deserts there, so the Santa Ana winds will quickly subside over the next 12 to 24 hours. In the plains, we've got that front coming south, and there's a look at that. Low pressure there in the Enid area today. So the current map is looking like this. That low near Enid shifted to about Chanute. And then overnight, we'll see that continuing eastward into Missouri. So by morning, the Bear Clinic low will be in central Missouri. And then by the time evening rolls around, that will be all the way near St. Louis. And behind it, lots of cold air sweeping in from the north. Then for Texas, this evening, the picture is looking like this. There's that front coming south, and north of that, we've got 30s and 40s for Kansas, contrasted with 80s and a few 90s in Texas. So overnight, by morning, the cold front comes all the way to Shreveport and almost to Houston, goes straight through San Antonio there, and then you can see 50s blowing into the Dallas-Fort Worth area right there. And then during the day tomorrow should be rather cool. There will be a lot of modification of the air mass. So temperatures will come up to the 60s, upper 60s, but that's a lot cooler than anything we've seen so far this fall. This is the first real taste of fall. And up there in northern Arkansas, a lot of 40s. And a lot of that is due to wraparound clouds, helping to cut down on solar heating there. And then a cold night coming up tomorrow night. Look at that, lots of 50s there and even 40s in Oklahoma. And then we'll just see that air mass just kind of modify there. Here comes the ridge. And once that ridge is passed, then we'll see things come around to warmer conditions. The front will be reaching the southeast U.S. over the next couple of days too. This is tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow evening, there it is coming up on the Mississippi River Valley, but modification is going to be very rapid. So by Wednesday morning, the front will make some progress into Mississippi, Louisiana, and then it looks like it just kind of stalls out over Alabama and Mississippi. And then for the Northeast, of course, yeah, they're going to get the cold weather as usual. Tomorrow morning, 60s to start out with east winds, and then temperatures will be coming up to the upper 50s and lower 60s. Looks like a little bit of a front hung up over Virginia. And then looks like the dominant weather process here will be high pressure in Quebec, bringing south winds across much of the northeast like that right there. And then we'll just kind of wrap that up with the GFS forecast. And then I'll let us look at the long range. And I'll start out with the European model here. Okay, so earlier today, there's that front coming in, driven by this Pacific high. And then that blows through. The surface system pulls up through Indiana. And there's that high right there, just kind of weakening and not making it much further southeastward. And then we see cyclogenesis once again in the plains, another cold air mass rebuilding in the Pacific Northwest. And then things really come together over the weekend. This is going to be Sunday morning, a new Pacific front. And this is a very strong Pacific front. Usually we don't see them quite this strong. 1042 millibar high there. That's very intense. And that pushes rapidly through Texas and the southern plains. And then we see a little bit of low pressure associated with that, moving from Kansas into the Great Lakes area. So there may be a little bit of local intensification over the Great Lakes there, since the lakes are relatively warm. And then about a week from now, just high pressure across the southern U.S. And that will keep the Gulf shut down there. You can see the northerly flow. That's the dominant weather picture along the Gulf Coast there. And then taking a look at the GFS, let's see how that matches up. There goes the old Pacific system. Ridging moves into the Texas area, more baroclinic development in the northwest. And it looks like the GFS is a little less aggressive with the anticyclogenesis in the northwest here. The European model was going for much more development. It was going for that 1040 millibar high, and on the GFS we're only seeing about 1026 millibars here. I see probably 1030 right there. Looks like the center of that high is in this area here, but not quite as strong as what the European model shows. But that will be strong enough to drive a front back into Texas once again. And there it goes. 1030 millibar high from the Great Basin down to Texas. And then for the middle of the next week, yeah, that's going to keep northerly flow along the Gulf Coast and keep things pretty well shut down. And then we see things come together once again in the Pacific Northwest. Around the 20th, another system gathering strength and pushing southward through the plains once again. Okay, well, I've got to get to work here. I've got a pretty large workload for tonight, so I'm going to we'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. I appreciate you all watching the webcast, and we'll try to do it again tomorrow. And I figure doing a short weathercast is better than just canceling for the evening. So hope you have a good evening, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.